Welcome to the Unscripted Authentic Leadership Podcast, a podcast where we're seeking to lead change while also seeking to understand. We're also providing a platform for leaders to come together, to unite, to develop, and empower other leaders in the area of business, family, faith, and community. I am your host, Lafayette Lane, joined by my co-host, John LeBron, and we are so excited to bring forth to you episode number 25.
Wow.
Cannot believe it. Episode 25. We've been doing this since August of 2020 of last year, and this is episode 25, and we're on a roll, and we're just getting started. Before we get into the topic, we definitely want to say thank you to all of our supporters, those of you that support us on our YouTube channel there, Unscripted Authentic Leadership, those of you that have subscribed there, those of you that are watching this or will watch the replay back, we want you to share this. Share this with someone. Comment, hashtag Unscripted Leadership. You'll see that at the bottom of the ticker there. Those of you that support us there. And then also those of you that support us on our other various social media platforms, whether that be from Facebook. Our Facebook page is Unscripted Authentic Leadership. Instagram, our Instagram handle is at Unscripted Leadership, and also LinkedIn, Unscripted Authentic Leadership. On these various platforms, you can find our full podcast episodes, where also you can find what we call Unscripted Reel. The Unscripted Reel shows you short cinematic clips from the full podcast episodes. And those of you that are a part of our streaming audience, that you support us there on our various platforms, whether that be Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, Stitcher, Deezer, so forth. All the various streaming platforms, you can find our podcast there at Unscripted Authentic Leadership. We are so excited about our website that you can go there to our website, unscripted-leadership.com. That's unscripted-leadership.com, where you will find not only that Unscripted Authentic Leadership is not just a podcast, but we are a platform for all leaders that are encompassing to look for a place that you can come and connect, come and find training, come and find development. You can find all of those things and more on our website there, unscripted-leadership.com. If you're interested in being a guest on our show, have questions for us, you can contact us there through the website. You can subscribe, and we would love to connect with you there. Before we get into the topic, we also want to promote next week for episode 26. We have a special guest coming on, a lady by the name of Becky Morrison, who is the founder of Butterfly Society, but she also owns a coaching and consulting practice. And those of you know, last week we said this month we'll be talking about authenticity, being authentic, and authentic leadership. She will be coming on discussing authentic leadership, and specifically authenticity is the new presence. And so we are definitely excited about having her on next week to bring a different perspective and add some things and drop some gems and wisdom for our Unscripted Authentic Leadership family that will help you in your endeavors of leadership, whatever context of leadership that you currently serve in your area of service of leadership. And so before we get into the topic, as always, we got to check in with John and see how he's doing. Bro, how's it going?
I'm good, man. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Yeah.
It's been great for me. I woke up this morning and my little Lily was ready and she had presents. She went and got me something. So that was cool. So she's 6, if you guys don't know. And so when your blonde-headed little 6-year-old brings you a present with a chocolate, because I am a chocolate fiend, it's pretty cute. So it's been a good day.
Absolutely, man. Did all that. I enjoyed Valentine's Day. Myself, my wife, and my daughter, we went painting yesterday, and so that was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
And of course, my daughter's looking forward to the snow. She likes to eat the snow and play in the snow and things of that nature. So
yes,
it's good over this way too, man.
Good.
Last week we talked about the power of instinct, kicking off our month of authenticity, and I don't think this week, it is not by happenstance. The topic this week is "You Are Good Enough," and it is Valentine's Day, and I think that falls in line with that theme as well. Getting into that, and I want John to really kick us off today and just lead and steer the conversation on this whole topic of "You Are Good Enough," that falls under the umbrella over the overarching theme of authenticity. John, kick us off, bro.
Hi guys. So when we talk about authentic leadership, this term is thrown around so much, but it doesn't mean like it's not important. So you hear all the time on YouTube and stuff, be authentic, be your authentic self. But I think we're really starting to get it mixed up. We're falling right back into following somebody and acting as if them. So, authentic leadership is basically, my own definition is the ability to lead others with a foundation of honesty and sincerity. It's having self-awareness, right? Here's the problem. Most leaders are relating authenticity with certain like famous people, YouTube sensations, leadership styles, maybe personality types. And since somebody wants to be authentic, they start mimicking these quote unquote authentic, people. And then they kind of use that their bravado or their brashness or sometimes lack of people skills saying, "Oh, I'm just being my authentic self." And I've seen that a lot, especially as I've been out in the marketplace and I've networked and gotten to know people in other companies. And I find things like, I find it odd that some people's language is getting a little harsh or their brashness is a little abrupt. And the first thing I think is, and I'm not knocking on this person, but I follow this person. I watch like a Gary Vaynerchuk or something, and I appreciate the content he puts out. But the reality is I live in Ohio, not in Jersey. And I see people want to mimic because they appreciate what he's doing, but what he does is authentic to him. And a lot of people, I think, are trying to mimic that and say, me doing this is authentic. Well, the reality is I've never talked that way. I wasn't raised to talk that way, so I don't. But that's my authentic self. And so I think we are starting to get this misconstrued of what is authentic as in, acting as if somebody else. And I think the core of that comes down to people not understanding that they as themselves is good enough. So today we want to talk about that. Like, you are good enough, right? The foundation of being authentic begins with honesty, transparency, and comfort with yourself. Basically, being comfortable in your own skin, right? Having good self-awareness, and just having that, knowing that you, as you are now, is good enough. That does not mean that it's an excuse not to grow and develop. It just means that you're good enough now to start and be you, and in the process, start to grow and develop. What do you think about that process, Lafayette, as far as when we're going to get into like why do we feel inadequate and so forth, and then wrap up with some things to help us feel better. But what do you think when someone about that, as far as just people feeling like they're not good enough to really get started?
Yeah, excellent question, bro, and great intro there as you were talking specifically about the Gary V and those that copy the YouTubers, and you talked about how that works for Gary V in his particular context in Jersey. And I begin to think about a lot of times you have to be selective in who you try to quote unquote imitate. There's nothing wrong with pulling from other people's style, their presentation, their delivery, but you have to understand your gifting as well, because some styles can be imitated, but it won't come out the same as you pointed. One of the reasons why it won't is because the context that you're in is different from the person that you're trying to imitate. So that authenticity may work for them because they're in the proper context, or they're in the right environment, they're in the right atmosphere that may be different from yours. But secondly, I thought about that they may be gifted to do that. You may not have that gift. So your gift may run parallel different from your authenticity than the person that you may glean from. Now, we all have mentors and we all have those that we look towards to, but there's a difference at looking towards someone and trying to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you ask LeBron James who he looks up to, he would tell you Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, and various others. You can look at LeBron's game. You can say, wow, he has the passing ability like Magic. But to be like someone and to be them is two different things. And so when you're trying to be authentic, it's okay to try to be like, but still be you. And it's perfect what you said, because you have to realize it starts with that foundation, as John laid out, that you are good enough. You are qualified. You are good enough to what you have inside of you, and the equipment that you have been equipped with is good enough for your presentation. And so you can pull from. I model myself. I look towards to Eric Thomas, but I don't do as much screaming or hollering here on the podcast. I don't. Even though I look towards him. Now, there are things that I pull from him, some nuggets, some wisdom. But as far as the way I talk, I'm going to use the voice that God gave me, and so that's just realizing being self-confident in who you are. But it's so important as a leader. I heard a quote that was so good from a preacher by the name of Bishop Noel Jones. He said that if both of us are the same, one of us is not needed.
Yes.
And so we have to really think about when it comes to the authenticity piece, that if you are not yourself, there's actually a void that's going to be unfulfilled, because there is a context that needs your gift. They need the real you, but because you're so busy trying to be someone else, there's a void that's not being fulfilled because you think that you have to be like the next person that's quote unquote popular or trending or has a huge social media presence, when you don't realize there's an audience for everybody. And so you have to be you. God did not design us to be robots. He didn't design us to be the same. And so we have to have differences. We have to have different qualities and different perspectives. And it's all a part of your authenticity. That's what makes us great. That's what makes us the quote unquote United States of America, or the melting pot, is because we all bring a different vantage point. We all bring a different perspective. We all bring a different background, and we all come from different cultures. And so it's okay for John to be himself. It's okay for me to be myself, but we can work together, not because we're the same, but because we're authentic in our difference. That's what helps us propel us to our purpose.
Oh my gosh. That was epic. Guys, it's so critical. Like, how many people listen to this don't know that Lafayette was born to have a mic in front of him, whether it's in a church, here? Like, you guys understand this, right? Every now and then I've had questions and people say, hey, John, I noticed Lafayette leads a lot of the conversations. How come you don't lead so many? I'm like, guys, he was born to do that. Like, I'm so much better putting my 2 cents in and him teeing up things for me to like talk about, and him designing the layout of conversation is what he does. Like, he preaches, he lays these things out, and they're beautiful. Like, I don't get in a comparison. I know today I'm kind of leading a couple of things, but yeah, it wasn't like because I was asked to, if we're being honest. I love the way he lays it out. And I am well aware that we have different gifts.
Yeah.
And that's what makes us want to be a good team, right?
Really.
If I wanted to be Lafayette, then one of us wouldn't, like he said, one of us would not be needed.
Exactly.
It was so good. They say that about relationships. When you're married and people say, well, my wife's this way, my husband's this way. And basically what you're trying to do is make them you. Like, if they were you guys wouldn't need the other person. They're there to fill your missing gap, right? So good. That was winning perfect. So let's talk about this. That leads perfectly into, understanding that the reason I think a lot of us feel that we cannot be ourselves is we don't view ourselves as adequate. Understand that Gary Vee is so popular because he, as Lafayette had basically said, is filling a void that was out there that somebody needed, and he stayed within himself. But you copying does not fill a void. It just copies what a void someone else has filled. So why do we tend to feel inadequate? The first bullet to that is often we feel inadequate because we feel ill-equipped. Understand this. God equips the called. He doesn't just call the equipped. Okay? Understand that. God equips the called. He doesn't just call the equipped. You don't have to be perfect for him to call you. I'm not saying if you're equipped, he's not calling you. I'm saying that he's going to call on you because he knows that you at your current spot is good to start now. And you take those steps forward, and he is going to give you everything you need to grow at the proper time and the proper pace to fulfill what you were called to do. The world needs what you have to offer. Guys, so many people want to perfect. I have so many friends. I got these great ideas. Like, I'm going to do this and this. And they've been talking about it for 5-10 years. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? I'm interested in what you're doing. How's it going? Are you getting started? When do you launch? Blah, blah, blah. And all I ever hear is, oh, I just got to get a couple more things just right. I got to get things tweaked here. Understand this. Like, you cannot perfect a craft that you're not actively pursuing, that you're not actively doing. You actually have to start first, then perfect it with experience. But you can't get experience if you don't start. Therefore, you have to just accept that you're not going to be the quote unquote expert or guru every time, and just understand that you have a passion and a calling, and just take some steps forward. I promise you, I'm not perfect at podcasting. I'm not perfect at speaking. I mumble my words. I say things too quickly, and when I hear them back on YouTube, I don't even know if you understood what I said. I just let Lafayette's great, eloquent voice take over, and y'all can just understand that he's got that part down. I don't know. But what you have right now is good enough, and you have what's equipped. Lafayette, what do you think about that when people feel so ill-equipped with where they're at?
Yeah, that's so true. As you were saying that, you said you cannot perfect the craft that you are not actively doing. I thought about a quote. I can't remember the book that I read, but it talked about practicing while you perform. That you're not going to get better at doing something by stopping doing it. And you said you actively have to do it, which means you have to fumble along and shape and nurture your gift or whatever you're doing that your gifting is calling you to do, whether it be podcasting, running a business, being a great leader in your family, being a great leader in your department, being a great pastor, a youth pastor, whatever the case may be. You have to learn along the way. And I think what we do, the mistake that we make in why we feel ill-equipped, is because we always model ourselves after people that have been doing it for such a long time. The people that are viral or have blown up overnight, they'll tell you that really, I didn't really go viral. I actually recorded 800 episodes on YouTube before I went viral. I was listening to an interview the other day on the House of Athlete with Brandon Marshall and Chad Johnson. They had a guest YouTuber on there, Jake Paul. And he said when he started YouTube, he recorded 800 episodes every day until he got to 800 episodes until he went viral. People look at it now that he has millions of followers, but that meant that he understood that when I started, the equipment that I had when he first started is not what he has now. You can't look at the picture of where people are now and the success that they have and think that they had it all together when they started. That's not the case. We've said it so many times, so many examples run through my mind. Michael Jordan was not well equipped in his high school basketball team. He was cut or he didn't make the team. Michael Jordan. And so you have to realize that it's not about being fully equipped. The realization is it's not really about being fully equipped. All the equipment that you'll ever need is already in you. It's about that being developed. And so as you go along, it's not that you gain more equipment, it's that you just develop what was already there. The organ that's in the baby, the heart that's in the baby, I have a heart right now. I didn't get it at 27 years old. I was born with a heart, but over time, my heart developed, my organs developed, everything, my muscles and tendons, they developed. I didn't get more muscles. I didn't get more organs. Every organ that I needed that's in my body right now at 27, I had when I was born. It just was developed over time. And so that's the backwards thinking that we have. We think that we need to gain more. No, you just need to go, and everything that you already have in you will continue to develop. As you continue to go, you will grow.
Yep. Guys, did you hear that? You already have the gift. It's in you. Yep. You just have to develop the gift. Steve Harvey talks about that all the time, right? You don't need to know more. You just need to do more. It's perfect. Oh my gosh, let's keep moving. So the second reason we often feel inadequate is due to simply a poor self-image. Our self-image is bad. I was such a victim of this. I had the victim mentality a little bit as a young man. And I was always told, incidentally, as a kid, that I was small. And when I look back, it really affected me, because being a guy who's small, it's also looked at as you feel sort of inadequate. You feel less. You feel weak. And everything is because, oh, well, I'm smaller, right? When the reality is I'm just a little bit shorter and a little bit lighter than most at the time. Now I'm pretty average, but that really affected my self-image. It made me feel like if something happened, I couldn't stand up to it. That one little thing. And it wasn't that anybody ever told me, oh, you stink or you're bad. Actually, my parents were very uplifting. But a lot of people were like, wow, you're just so small. You're just so thin. Be careful. You're just really small. Right. And it was almost like that one little statement said over and over and over. And nobody realized, just kept pinning away at my self-image. And I never picked it up. And I just used that as a sort of victim mentality, that everything fell back on. I'm a small person, right? Like I said, I kept growing in college. About 5'9" now. I'm not really all that short, not tall, but right there in the middle. But that one little thing killed my self-image and made me feel inadequate in so many areas. And then I feel like I always had to compensate and everything else with extra attitude or whatever, right? Extra fire when I was playing sports when it was just ridiculous. All of us have that one thing that have really just put a hurting on our self-image. But you have to make a decision eventually to say, I'm going to take purposeful steps to build my self-image. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. What do you have to say about like self-image? I mean, we've all had one, right? We've all had a poor one. I had a poor one up until probably my early 20s, and I decided to start putting some action towards it.
Yeah. We live in an age and a society of images. Mm-hmm. Everything is about image. From Instagram, everything you post is about image. What did you have for breakfast? I got to post it. Or hashtag I woke up like this. So everyone has to put an image up, but you have to add a filter to it. And so we don't know who the real you really is. The thing about images, I thought about, John, I'm still young enough or old enough to remember before we had cell phones, cameras on our phones. I remember my grandpa had the Polaroid cameras.
Yes.
And when you took the picture, right, the picture would come out, but you would have to shake it. You would have to wait a little while. And then if you wanted to get those pictures blown up, you would have to get them, here's this word again, you have to get them developed. Mm-hmm. And the way that the pictures would be developed, you wouldn't get them the same day like you can now. you have to pick them back up maybe a couple of days or a week later, because what the photographers would do is they would take the images back to a dark room and let them develop in the dark. And a lot of times the reason why we struggle with our self-image is because we are shunning the dark rooms of development. We don't want to endure. We don't want to grind. And so our self-image suffers because we want an instant Instagram that we can just put a filter on, when we really need to go through the process of the Polaroid, right? And so we need to come out this digital mindset, this microwave mindset, that, you know, sometimes the best images that I need to take for myself, I don't need to compare myself to anyone. I don't need to look at myself at from an Instagram model, or those that are on magazines that I see, or those that have a big following on YouTube or a big Facebook page. I need to get into the development room where it's just me and the developer. And I need to submerge myself to a place where it's dark in here. It's dark in my life right now. There's some dark areas. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I understand that the best images are developed in the dark.
The best images are developed in the dark.
Yeah.
Phew. I loved what you said about comparison to others, and that walks right into the next thing. We often feel so inadequate because we are constantly comparing ourselves to other people. Yeah. Guys, you have to quit comparing your starting point to someone else's finish line. It's not even fair. Like, you're not even giving yourself a chance. Where you're at is where you're at. It's okay. Get excited about the journey. Get excited about not knowing everything, and that you're going to start learning, because remember, you are good enough and you're moving forward. Quit looking at everybody's highlight reel on Facebook and Instagram and thinking it's reality. It's not. When someone posts a bunch of selfies and they're all filtered, that means they don't feel like they're beautiful enough. That's why they filter it, right? There shouldn't be this random hashtag no filter on everybody's pictures like that's something special. That should be normal. It should not be normal to filter everything. That's ridiculous, right? So you basically already commented on, talked about, let's walk right in the next thing for time. Like, the next reason that we often feel inadequate is we are weak in faith. Understand that faith does not just thinking or saying, I believe it's going to happen, thinking, I believe it's going to happen. Faith is an action. The Bible says faith without works is dead. What that means is that faith is actually taking action towards something, not just thinking about something. Faith can be as little as speaking or as much as physical labor towards what you say you believe you will do or will accomplish. So when you say, I have faith that I can do this, that means I am literally taking steps towards accomplishing. And the reason we often feel inadequate is we are weak in our faith, to where we won't take any steps towards that. And Lafayette, I know you know a lot about faith. What do you have to say about that?
No, man, that was good. That was great. I love how you termed it weak faith, because there's so many acronyms for everything. And one of the acronyms for faith is fully anticipating it to happen. Faith is not just anticipation, as you just stated about faith without works is dead. That it's not just anticipation, it's participation. And so many a times what we're calling faith is wishful thinking. And so we're saying, well, I'm stepping out on faith because I've wrote down my dreams. That's not faith. That's a wish. When you have faith, you step out. When you have faith, as the episode we did a few weeks ago, you just do it, right? And so faith is not the absence of trouble. It's not the absence of life and circumstances and mishaps and mistakes and deficiencies. Faith is saying, I accept all of me, and I'm going to take my weakness and put it in God's hands, and I'm going to step out of the boat and start walking. Even if I begin to sink, at least I stepped out. And so this is the year that we talked about pivoting and shifting and moving forward, that you've got to strengthen your faith. You've got to strengthen your confessions. You've got to strengthen your confidence and the things that you say. There's so many things that can strengthen your faith, not just by the things that you read, by the things that you say. A lot of our faith is weakened because of things that come out of our own mouth. And so we say, well, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the intelligence. I don't have the necessary credentials to do it. I don't have the necessary connections. I don't come from the correct background. I have these deficiencies, when you don't realize that your weakness is your strength, right? And so if you realize that, to embrace all of you, because you need all of you. You don't just need the parts of you that you think that are good. You need every part of you to move forward and to execute and to be everything you've been called to be in your purpose. And so you've got to even embrace your weakness, because if you embrace your weakness, and what I mean by embrace your weakness, I don't mean to sully around and to say, this is an area I'm weak in. I'm not going to try to strengthen it. I'm not going to try to improve it. I'm saying address it. When I mean embrace, okay, I understand that I may not be the best writer. So the way that I'm going to embrace that, either A, I will do what it takes to be a better writer, whether it's about reading about how to be a better writer, taking online courses, signing up for asking for assistance in that, or make your connections in the area that you are weak in. And maybe that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But a lot of times you have to check your team, because you should surround yourself and connect yourself with people who are on your team that will fulfill the deficiencies that you have. There is no point of me, everyone on my team has the same exact strength that I have. How do I improve? So if I am weak in faith in this certain area, I need to connect with someone that is strengthened in that area, because by connecting on them, I'm not just leaning on them to do it, but by making that connection in the area that they're stronger in faith in, it'll strengthen my area of weakness as well.
Guys, the world teaches you to fix your weaknesses. The reality is that's not the case. Could there be weaknesses that you can tweak and improve? Yes, but you really need to be doubling down on your strengths. That's what you need. You can find people to fix what you're not, to work on what you're not good at.
Exactly.
Double down on your strengths and don't spend so much time worrying about your weaknesses. The last two, why we feel inadequate. One is the criticism of others. So many people are literally paralyzed by the criticism of somebody else. And a lot of times it's friends and family with good intentions who just want you to not get hurt. But what they don't realize is they are ruining your dream. You have to be put on some tough skin and just not worry about the criticism of other people, especially people you may not even see that often, right? Who cares? You just have to be willing to say, you know what? Forget you. I'm moving forward. And we talked about that last week. And the last one is fear of failure. Guys, you cannot succeed without failure. You actually succeed by failing, learning, and getting better, not by just avoiding failure. You literally cannot succeed by avoiding failure. You have to go through the process. It's growing pains. It's try, fail, and adjust. That doesn't mean keep having the same failures, but it's not being afraid of failing and just going through that mode of saying, I know I'm going to mess up, and that's okay. Let's get on to some things we can do to start believing in ourselves, unless you have something you want to add to that real quick.
Yeah, the only thing that I'll add to that about the failure piece is fail forward. Don't fail where you are, fail forward. And so I failed, quote unquote, in trying to reach my goal. So that's not a failure because you fell forward. It's only a failure if you fail in your excuse, or you fail not even trying. If you're going to fail, fail forward. And the only way that you can do that is you have to believe in yourself.
Yeah, a little pro tip, guys. The only way you can not fail forward is by quitting, typically. Most people are afraid. They say, what does fail forward mean? That means you literally are trying to move forward and then learning and keep moving forward. Remember, there's only two things that you can actually control in all circumstances. That is your actions and your attitude. That's it. There's a lot of things that are out of your control, and you just have to be fine with it. Life's not fair. Get over it. It doesn't matter. I teach that to my kids all the time. Like, that's not fair. Life's not fair. Too bad. It's just, I'm sorry. They're 9 and 6. They're not even that old. I've been ingraining it into my kids since they could talk. Life's just not fair. And I'm sorry. It's a little hard. And sometimes I want to make it fair, but that doesn't do you any good to make life fair. I'm sorry. I'm not saying we can't try to give people, like, I'm not going against equality and stuff. I think that's pretty obvious, but for anybody who wants to argue against that, that's not my point. It's just not fair. And that means, a tree branch fell on my roof a year ago and speared through my roof and put a big hole and started leaking through my bedroom. It didn't happen to my neighbor. Well, why isn't that fair, right? Life's not fair, guys. Things happen. So anyways, before we get on that tangent. So 5 things we can do to help us start believing in ourselves. Guys, this is so critical. You have to believe in yourself, but more importantly, you have to be willing to take the steps to believe in yourself and remove things that are hurting you from believing in yourself. What we're really trying to say is we need to start making our self-images better. All right, first thing is to help you believe in yourself more, you have to be conscious of what you are telling yourself. What are the words that you are using? You can say, I can't. We don't allow that word in my house. It's a 4-letter word. Can't. It's not allowed. It's worse than the other words. Or you can say, I can. You can say, I haven't, or I will, right? Some people say, oh, it's not I can't, it's I can't yet. That's fine. I like to take this next step and say that I can, and I'm just learning it right now. It's not I can't yet, it's I can, and I'll show you in 6 months or whatever. Not I haven't or I haven't yet, I will, right? Be definite about it. Like you are doing it. Guys, there's a saying that says, whatever you say you are, you're right. That's it. Whatever you say you are absolutely right. And you have to understand something. There's a book called What You Say When You Talk to Yourself. And one of the things that they say in this book, What You Say When You Talk to Yourself, anybody wants to look it up, is your subconscious cannot take a joke. Your subconscious cannot take a joke. What that means is, I used to have this habit of like teasing my wife, and I sometimes still do. And I'm trying to be way better about it. But me just kind of having fun, like teasing, actually hurts her self-image, because in the long term, her subconscious may start believing those things, right? So we have to be intentional about that. That's why making jabs at somebody really isn't all that funny. It kind of is, and guys like to poke at each other, and it's okay in maybe a short setting, but how many of those things are sticking? How many times to our friends or our spouses are we saying something, just saying, oh, just kidding though, right? But the reality is, how many of that sticks? Your subconscious doesn't see things as sarcasm. They see things as literal. Another thing is, do you know that not all countries understand sarcasm? It's complete truth. I have some friends from Brazil, and one of my best friends married a lady named Anna, and she's from Rio, and so when she moved here, she had a bunch of Brazilian friends that kind of somehow they all found each other, and they would like hang out. So I would go to their house, and we would have barbecues, and they were like the best group of people. Like, always like trying to help, offer food. What amazing time. What I learned quickly, though, is if I was trying to be sarcastic, it was often looked at like I was being an outright jerk. And I learned later when I said, so what was the biggest transition? She said, honestly, Americans love to be sarcastic, but that's not really a thing for where I grew up. Like, when you say something serious, but your tone means you're joking, actually isn't a thing in a lot of countries. People say things very literally, right? I didn't know that. A lot of countries don't understand sarcasm, not because they're not smart. They just don't partake in the sarcasm. Like, their jokes are literal jokes with an obvious joke to it, not this, you have to understand my voice inflection to see if I'm actually messing with you. So your subconscious can't take a joke. My wife has this cool app. It's an affirmation app. I recommend everybody downloads it. A little free pro tip. It's called I am positive affirmations. Just look up I am, you'll see I am positive affirmations. And she gets affirmations sent to her throughout the day. She can even customize them if you want. There's a free version and a premium version. Highly recommend everybody gets it. What do you have to say though, man, about people, about what you say when you talk to yourself?
Oh no, bro, you were on a roll, bro. I'm enjoying you, man.
Yeah.
Only thing I can add to that, everything that was great. When we talk about the words have power and the can't and can, I think a lot of times when people say I can't, I think really what we have to be honest, we're just saying I won't. Because to say you can't do something speaks to ability. So if I say I can walk or I can't walk, it's because I literally don't have the ability to do that. But if I'm saying I won't do something or I will do something, that speaks to the decision making of your innermost being. So a lot of time when we say, well, I can't do that, is because you won't do it, right? And you have to be honest with yourself to say, is this about my ability to do or to not to do something? Or is this about my decision making that I won't do it?
It's not that I can't, it's that I won't.
So
Perfect. Oh my goodness. All right. Next thing to do is to make yourself start believing in yourself is to stop listening to people who bring you down. I was talking to my neighbor and I said, it's like crabs in a bucket. He kind of looked at me funny and I thought, you never heard that? And he said, no. And I said, perfect. If you haven't heard it, just say so, for real. Great man. Mike, shout out. But crabs in a bucket. So here's the thing. You can put one crab in a bucket and he will simply crawl out. If you don't want that crab to crawl out, all you have to do is put some more crabs in and they will literally pull at the legs of the crabs trying to get out. So when you associate with people who are in a rut, who are not going where you want to go, they don't push you forward. They, in fact, incidentally, it's not on purpose, they pull you down. So that's why it's so critical to associate with people who are going where you want to go, specifically where you want to go, or are going somewhere themselves. It doesn't mean that I have to only associate with people who want to develop leadership platforms and podcasts. I'm saying it's people who want to grow themselves and their family and their community and their business and so forth. That's who you associate with, right? Church leaders, stuff like that. Not the person who always needs my help. And I'm here for those people, but that's not who I spend most of my time with. That's just who I go to help and serve because that's what God called me to do. What do you have to say about that, man? And then we'll speed through some of these other ones for time.
Yeah. This year, a lot of people made New Year's resolutions lists. You need to make who in my life is a crab. And I know that sounds hilarious. It may sound funny, but I'm so serious. A lot of the problem is that you have too many crabs in your life. John said a crab will succeed as long as it's in the bucket by itself. But if you want to see the crab die, if you want to see the crab not be able to get out the environment that it wants to get in and get to better, then you put other crabs in it because it'll literally pull the other crab down. And here's the harsh reality. Some of the crabs are family. Some of the crabs are people that we love the most. Some of the crabs are the people that we thought we needed to connect to. But we found out they really only wanted to be a crab or they wanted to be a leech. So they can get everything out of us. And once they're filled, they're done with us and we're left drained, right? So like you really have to do a self-evaluation. Only you can really do this. You got to be honest with yourself. Are you a crab? Are you a leech? Or are you a real friend? Are you a person that's really trying to attach to me to help because we have the same goal and we have the same purpose in mind so we can help each other connect and go forward? Or are you trying to connect to me for what you can get out of me? Or you see me going higher and so you don't want me to surpass where you are? So a lot of times people will tell you to be humble when you start doing better. There are two groups of people that will say that. People that are sincere and say, hey man, what you're doing is great, but don't get the big head. And they really mean that from a sincere heart. I do believe that there's those people that will keep you level-headed, and God will put those people in your life so you don't get lifted up in pride. We need that. I agree. But then there's a group of people that will tell you be humble because they see you doing better than them in their life. So when you're on the same level or you were doing worse than them, They were patting you on the back, telling you you were doing good. They never encouraged you to do better. But the moment and the day you made up in your mind that today is the last day I'm going to live beneath the privileges that God has called me to live beneath, and I'm going to rise above, is the day you started hearing them say, oh, you think you're better than me, or you think you're this or that. That's a crab. That's a clear indication that's a crab. And a lot of people that will say that were the people that you grew up with, people that came from the same neighborhood that you came up with, people that you went to school with, people that you had in your cell phone for the past 10 years that you thought they were your ride or die. You need to get rid of them. You can still love them from a distance, but you don't need to take them on your journey.
Oh my gosh, we're clipping that. That was so good. Guys, it's so critical. Your association has to be purposeful, not accidental, right? It's no longer that you're the best friend with somebody in third grade because you both like Batman. That doesn't matter. Real friends add value and serve each other. It's not just because you both like Ohio State and played soccer in high school. That's very material. It's very fake. It's old, and you need to get over that because we're no longer in high school. It's now you need to go add value to others, and I promise you'll find good friends that way. All right. Third thing, guys, is we need to remember to recall your successes, right? Remember how far you've come. So many times we look at where we're at, and we're like, oh, I'm such a loser because my neighbor just bought a new car. Well, guys, 3 years ago, you didn't have a neighbor because you didn't have a house, right? You were in an apartment or whatever. Understand you've been moving forward. Recall your successes. Write your successes down. Journal. There's some power in that. I need to do it more. Where you're at, where you're going, and then look back and remember, like, wow, I'm actually progressing. Not too bad. You don't need to be in such a hurry. You have 100 years of life. It's okay if you're 30 and you haven't figured it all out. The fourth thing is trust and love yourself. We talked last week about trust your instincts. Fall in love with who you are becoming and who you are. It's okay. Love the process of where you're going. Just love yourself. God made you special, and you have to understand that. Guys, don't confuse the complexity of growing yourself with the simplicity of starting your business or your project or wherever you're going to start. You're growing yourself as a lifelong journey. It never ends. It never ends. It's complex. You're confusing. There's a lot that is going on in here. But your project is just a moment of time. It may be a short or a long moment, but regardless, it's a simplistic thing, and you don't have to be perfect to get started because, like we said, you are good enough now. Okay? So don't confuse the two. Growing yourself is not the same as starting a project. And Lafayette, jump in here in a minute. And the last thing, guys, is give yourself permission to fail. Try, fail, try again. I've been really good at the only thing I can do good is laugh, and I laugh at my mistakes all the time because I do them every day. It's okay. It's okay to mess up, and it's okay to want to move forward. Just don't stay there. What do you got to say about those things?
It's okay to mess up. I love that. That was perfect. That's perfect. I want to hear, because we covered that. I want to hear, bro. I want to hear you wrap us up with this, the tale of the tape.
Okay.
Tale of the tape. Muhammad Ali.
Yes. So stick with me, guys, and we're wrapping up. In the early days of boxing, some experts used to call this thing the tales of the tape. And they use these tales of the tape to predict the future success of athletes' boxing career. Because remember how big boxing was, right? The tales of the tape was basically a series of physical measurements of the fighter. It was things like your fists, your reach, which they still use today, your chest expansion, your weight, a lot of those metrics. And many believe that this process would help them predict who would dominate the sport. There was one boxer who failed every single measurement. They gave him an early predicted label as a failure because he was, quote, not a natural, right? Not even by a long shot, they said. So February 25th, 1964, a fighter named Cassius Clay, we now know as Muhammad Ali, right, was at the time Cassius Clay was set to battle the current champion Sonny Liston. Ali, like I said, was, quote, not a natural. He had great speed, but didn't have the physique of a great fighter. He didn't have the strength. He didn't have the classic moves. In fact, he boxed all wrong. He didn't block punches with his arms and his elbows. His punches were in rallies like an amateur. He kept his jaw exposed, which is a huge no-no. He pulled back his torso to evade impact of oncoming punches instead of moving side to side, which a lot of people said that's basically like trying to run from a train by running backwards and not jumping off the tracks, right? That's Muhammad Ali. Sonny Liston was labeled as a natural. He had size, legendary power, experience. Liston was widely considered at the time one of the best heavyweights of all time, still kind of is. Beating Liston at the time was so ridiculous that when the fight happened, the arena wasn't even full, which was not something that happened for a championship battle. They assumed this is a walkover. This isn't going to happen. Here's what the tails of the tape didn't show. Ali's strength was actually his mindset, right? He obsessed over all of his opponents. He studied them inside and out. He said he would listen to their interviews just to listen to how they think. He would go talk to people who knew him well, or even who just had conversation with him, just to get a little bit more intel on how that person's mind worked. And he would stay up all night just understanding the psychology of that one fighter. And that was his edge. Ali said after the fight, he said, quote, Liston had to believe that I was crazy, that I was capable of doing anything. And he finished it with, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Your hands can't hit what your eyes can't see, right? And as we all know, he went on to win that battle, right? Ali won the mental state well before the physical. Instead of looking, and here's why I tell you this, instead of looking in the mirror and him saying, I'm not good enough, he literally said that famous quote that we all have heard, right? I am the greatest. And he really was. That's the tails of the tape, Muhammad Ali.
Yep. Muhammad Ali, the tail of the tape. What will your tail of your tape be as a leader, as a student, as a family man, as a woman who's ahead of your organization? What will the tail of the tape of your life be? Make it be great. Make it be purposeful. Don't let anyone ever underestimate you. Walk in your purpose and walk in your gifting, because you are good enough. This read of the month this week is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, one of the inspirational books that will help you in your self-improvement. You're looking to be more effective in whatever context, whatever area that is. I promise you this book will help you in that area. We thank you for tuning in. And we also, as always, want to thank you for all of our supporters. We want you all to especially tune in next week. As we've already stated, we have a special guest coming on by the name of Becky Morrison, who is the founder of Butterfly Society. Again, she owns a coaching and consulting practice, and she will be coming on, giving us insight and nuggets and wisdom about authenticity is the new presence. And so we are definitely excited about that. Continue to support us on our social media platforms that you see on the screen there, on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can find our brand across platforms. We're under the same name, Unscripted Authentic Leadership. You'll see our logo there on any platform, even on the streaming platform. You'll see our logo there. You pull us up on any of the podcast platforms there, whether that be Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or the various others. We thank you for it. We definitely ask you to leave us a review on the streaming platforms, share on the other platforms, the Facebook and the Instagram and the YouTube. Subscribe there. Help us out and help us expand this Unscripted Authentic Leadership platform as we go higher. And listen, check out the website this week, unscripted-leadership.com. It is an amazing website that has been created for all leaders, no matter what creed, color, background that you come from. There's something for everyone there. And we will continue to develop that website. There's some amazing things that we have in store there. We're excited of what is going on here at the Unscripted Authentic Leadership platform. Listen, as always, we are appreciative of all of you, and we ask you to be the leader that God has called you to be. We are here to build bridges and not walls. Bridges connect, walls divide. Until next time, God bless you.